This conference will now be recorded.
I hereby call to order this regular meeting of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors. We'll start with the invocation by Mr. Parker, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Miller.
Lord, we ask that you watch over and guide us in our decision making. We make the best decisions for our customers as well as the citizens. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, on to public comments. Anybody in the audience wish to speak? Mr. Dines, do we have anybody online? Okay, thank you. Reports from the board members. Ms. Kupka.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. I want to thank all of our staff. I see we have staff members here in the audience tonight. Thanks for coming out tonight. I want to thank you for maintaining operations during the duration of the snow emergency, or the Snowmageddon, as I've been referring to it. And I also want to note, I did have a telephone call. I want to thank Senator Richard Stewart. On Thursday, January 6th, he called to see what resources we might need to respond to the snow emergency. As a result, I had a telephone call with the Dominion Energy Virginia Director of State and Local Legislative Affairs regarding the prioritization of our critical infrastructure, in particular, some of our service authority assets that had already gone to generator and still did not have power as of Thursday. And then also a telephone call with the statewide director of emergency management regarding prioritizing our fuel needs for service authority assets, because we did have the Owens customers were on a boil notice because their power had gone down and we were just about out of fuel as well. So I want to thank them for their support. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kupka. Ms. Cleveland?
Yes, I wanted to just say that we're very thankful that the Service Authority was able to maintain the water supply during the recent storm. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from some of my neighbors that are clients of the Service Authority that although they lost their electric for long periods of time, they were very thankful that the water was maintained throughout that storm. So really appreciate that. Also want to say thank you to Mr. Miller and staff for getting back to me about some recent questions that were brought up to me from some of the homeowners of Potomac Landing. Appreciate you guys getting back with me about those questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Cleveland. Ms. Bender?
I want to reiterate what my colleagues said and thank our staff for their hard work during the snowstorm and keeping our customers' water safe and everything running as best as they could. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. Mr. Parker?
And I'm reiterating the same thing. The first people I saw on the roads after the snow subsided was the Service Authority truck, 2 of them coming in to check out the pump stations. So really appreciate the efforts. The roads were nowhere near clear in Hop Yard to be driving. So great job to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. And I also would like to thank the staff for all their efforts during the storm. Another topic that came up, it seems that the St. Paul well at the corner of Strawberry Lane and Dahlgren Road, the Service Authority only owns a 100 by 100 foot plot that the pump, well house, and tank sit on. The owner of the surrounding lot has approached me and he is interested in selling the rest of that lot to us. I think this is something we should have the staff further investigate and the preliminary discussion I had with him, I think the price is very reasonable. And I think we should move forward into looking into this. Part of it, I think would be beneficial is because if we ever have to expand, if we need to put a larger tank or we have to add other equipment, it gives us a bigger footprint to be able to do that sort of thing. There's nothing else that can be done with that lot. So it's just sitting there.
Would you like a motion, sir?
Please.
Move to direct staff to investigate the opportunity and report back to the board at a future meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any objections? None. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Kupka. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any objections? Motion carries. Moving on, report from our county attorney.
I don't have anything to report. We did receive, I guess I will amend that to say we did receive a proposed consent order that we're reviewing, and so we'll report back next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, no presentation. Mr. Miller, your general manager's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. We certainly appreciate the very kind words that you had about our staff. I know that they were working, over the top in terms of service. I think it was countywide, and but I do believe that the service authority staff, some of the work that they did, particularly people like wastewater operators that basically had to camp at the plants that they were designated. We had to get one of our operators, lead operators, into Fairview Beach, and we're able to get him in there like at 4 o'clock that afternoon because of the difficulty of getting into that area, particularly. And these folks kept those facilities running, water service as well. I think it was just a great effort. It was a great team effort on the part of all the service authority employees, but also they're working with all the other county folks. It was a great effort as well. I will tell you that we had a meeting today. We call it an after action. I think most people in the emergency operation business know what that is, and that is essentially an assessment of what happened and what we did right, what things need to be done differently, where we have some shortcomings, what we want to try to address for anything in the future, which could actually be in 2 days. But the one thing I will say is that we know that the big concern, and it's countywide, but it's with us particularly, is the ability to have power and to have an understanding of when the power is going to be restored or what the status of things are. Clearly, Hop Yard, Fairview Beach, and Oakland Park were most significantly impacted. For those who live in Hop Yard, we were at 20% of our water well capacity at one point, and we were bringing in temporary generators and fueling those. Mr. Eisenbeiss was kind of taking the lead on the fueling of, and I don't know how many, 2,600 gallons, and he had a 100-gallon tank on the back of his truck, so you can do the math. But this was system-wide until we got the power. One of the things that we were doing, as I said, in Hop Yard, was they were going in the process of filling the and doing the reserve generator and, temporary generator, and then finally got power. So it was fortunate. In a lot of ways, we're probably fortunate that power came on in such a way at Hop Yard, because if it had come on in stages or, in like certain sectors and people started doing wash or, people started running the hot water heater and all that kind of stuff, then it could have drawn that down even more to a more dangerous level. But we were very fortunate. And so we are at the county level, and as I said, the service authority is a part of that as well, is that we're coordinating with our power companies to make sure that all of our sites are on the critical infrastructure list. It was our understanding that they were, but somehow I think some things got left off. We've talked about the Owens situation where they were without water for, was it about 48 hours? Was that a little close to 48 hours? And I know Patty and John and Jerry Goldman went and hand delivered the notices, and it's a small system, obviously, 37 customers, but those people were given the information about what to do when, the boil notice and all that kind of stuff. We thought that the big issue was the inability to get the propane serviced at the site. The propane is there's a big propane tank that serves as the backup power supply. That tank had drained. There was some kind of a leak, but it also turned out that across the street there was a breaker on a power pole that was off, and Dominion had missed it for probably 2 days, I think. And once that came on, then that power restored that. And then we have to go through a process, obviously. Once the water is back in operation, you've got to test it 2 times, and each test takes 24 hours. So I believe that they got water on, was it Saturday afternoon or Sunday? Yes. Right. So, there is a process that's gone through. So if you ever have customers that ask you why, they've got it back on, it has to be tested for the bacteriological contaminants that could cause a problem for somebody. And so that's one test takes a full 24 hours, and you have to do 2 tests. You have to have a clear test on both. So both times. So that's one of the reasons. Some of the other things that we're going to look at is the idea, if we've got the funding, is to put some kind of a skid tank for diesel fuel at the service authority yard, so that we're not necessarily in competition with every other customer in King George County and everybody heading back to Westmoreland County or wherever when they stop at Sheets and they get gas, because that's a situation that was a very big concern for us, is if they started running out of fuel, then that was going to impact some folks. And so we want to look at that. Again, we'll make sure that we have everything identified for the power companies, and that we're working, probably going to also look at another plow, so that we can broaden our efforts to make sure that we can get to all the sites. And the amazing thing that happened is Perkins Corner, our thorn in the side, never lost power. So you can say that the old gal did well. Anyway, another item up there is just a future work session with the Board of Supervisors. I know that it would be good after the start of the first of the year for this board and the Board of Supervisors to have like a joint work session. So be thinking about that. We're also going to start the budget process. The Board of Supervisors is due to begin theirs towards the end of next month. And so I would like to be kind of on the same time frame. I know we don't obviously have the width or the breadth that the Board of Supervisors is going to go through, but we do have opportunities, and especially given the the efforts in the past couple of years towards the financial stability of the organization. Our budget process is a very important process. And so we'll start that internally, and then we'll work with you all on a work session type framework. I think it's more effective when it's done in a work session and you're not feeling the strain of a regular board meeting to discuss things like that, so that you can get into it a little bit more. COVID update. I do this for the Board of Supervisors, but I'll also do this for you all. Our daily updates we get. So the King George positivity rate is 41%. The Rappahannock Area Health District is 41%. So we're right at that. There's the currently active cases of 668, and new cases as of today were 29. I say that because I think that the important thing is the second item that I talk up there is about employee safety. All during the storms, the recovery and the process of working to assist people in the community and responding to all the needs that we had. I think, knock on wood, the service authority was in pretty good shape. I think we had a couple cases where some folks had to be out and, quarantine. Fire department was as many as 11 cases. They were very close to having to fall under the VOSH guidelines in terms of bringing people back. And that's maybe one of the worst things. So I say that in the sense that we are looking at things internally to ensure our employee safety. The most important thing that we can do is provide you and our customers a safe workforce, a healthy workforce. And so there'll be some things that I'm going to be doing that we'll be doing here towards the end of the week, and I'll provide it as an informational item. It's certainly meant as to protect the health and the safety of our employees, not going in the direction of asking anything like a mandate or anything like that. But it is more to protect our employees so that they can show up every day and do the job that they're supposed to do, and not be getting wiped out by this pretty active spread of the Omicron and some of the other things. So just wanted to let you know. January cutoffs, we decided, obviously, the plan was on January 4th. We were going to start the process of cutting off people that had been delinquent. January 4th was 2 weeks ago. That was Tuesday. So we're obviously in kind of full recovery mode. And so we made the decision, obviously, to postpone those. And I don't even know what was the level of delinquencies. Do you have any recollection, Patty? Okay. So we basically just have instructed Muni Billing not to, don't worry about that at this time. But I will say that, we'll pick it up again. I guess the next one will be in March sometime, correct? Okay. The last item I would mention up there is the safety equipment for the staff. John, you want to stand up and show them what we got to all of the employees? These are our turnout gear, I guess you would call it. So they all got that, and they got a couple other items as well. Right. So we did that before Christmas, and then, we're going to pick up again on our safety audit, our safety activities, addressing some of those concerns that were identified in the VACORP study. And so we'll do that, start cranking that out. The last item I have is Ms. Lackey did point out that we did receive a proposed consent order, and that is, to be clear, that's for the Perkins and the Dahlgren wastewater treatment plant. And so We will evaluate it. I believe we have until the 3rd of February to get back to them. So that allows you all to have it presented to you on the 1st, the meeting of the 1st. And then we would, hopefully it's I haven't delved into it, but I know obviously it's not a significant, it's not significant at this time to, for us to continue any discussions about it. So we'll come back to you with a presentation and get that beyond us. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Miller?
I got one comment, and it's sort of it's on muni billing, and we should look into it. Because I don't know what they're doing. So, and this happened to my wife and myself, interestingly enough, but it obviously happened to a bunch of customers. We got the notice that said we hadn't paid our bill. The bill had gone out, the check had gone out a long time ahead of time. So my wife called, and muni billing had it, and had gotten a call from dozens and dozens of customers with the same problem. It appears the checks were sitting on somebody's desk. That's the best guess as to what muni billing said as to what had occurred. But that's not really a good explanation as to why people are getting delinquency notices. All the checks were written and mailed at about the same time. So they came to muni billing's offices at the same time, but it's like they sat there and never got processed. So I only knew about it because it happened to us. And the lady said that literally dozens and dozens of people had called in with the same problem, and all the checks were from the same date range and should have arrived about the same time. So it's something we should check in with muni billing, because our customers don't need to be getting delinquency notices when they've paid their bills.
Okay, so to be clear, this is a relationship you had with them, not something that was sent to the treasurer's office that then it was.
No, it was muni bill. It was muni billing. We sent our check directly from the bank, so okay. It goes from our bank account straight to them. And when we got the notice from muni billing, my wife called, and she had indicated dozens of people had already called her that morning with the same problem. All the checks were from the same time period.
You have a time frame that we could then?
Yeah, I could get from my wife what the time frame is, but they had all.
Any knowledge about this?
Yeah, this wasn't a holiday delay. Okay. Muni billing indicated that it had come in on. They had thought it had come in on time, but that it just wasn't put into the system for some reason.
Right, and so we'll look into it. If you want to give me that information, we can look into it.
Yeah, they fixed it themselves on the back end, but a bunch of people got a delinquency notice.
I will tell you as an update. So you remember that you guys approved the CIP, that one of the projects included going to AMI as a alternative to muni billing. And so really where we are on that process is, so a vendor has been selected, correct? And the next step is we're looking at the way best to handle that capital purchase or that capital project. If we were to draw down on the letter of credit, then the moment you draw down, then you're going to start earning, or you're going to start accruing interest on that. And so I think we're trying to figure out the best time frame. Where do we sit as an organization cash flow wise? Could we do that without drawing down, and then just and then draw down like towards the end of the fiscal year so that we can, repay ourselves, if you will, is essentially how you would do that. And so I'm working with Ms. Hahn about the timing of that, but that is one of the projects that would be done for this fiscal year, because I know that, and that then clears the way for it to come back into our hands in terms of administering that. So that's something that we're very much looking at, but I'll circle back with you on that. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Miller, I have a couple questions regarding Owens and what happened there. With the fuel leak, has it been determined whether it was our equipment that leaked or the gas supplier's equipment? And if it's the gas suppliers, are we on the hook for the bill for the lost fuel?
Let me ask John, do you want to stand up and address that here?
So it was our equipment or our equipment? Okay. And then the other question is, I was under the impression that Owens is tied into St. Paul's. It is not. And I understand we've had on the books eventually tying Owens into Dahlgren also, but there was something about a hot tap and getting across 301.
Dean, do you have information you might? You got to come up here.
And hooked together. But like I say, until that's approved, there's still a section of line that has not been installed at that subdivision. The question with the St. Paul's and Owen system, it is supposed to be connected, but we've tried opening said valves and it's never produced water. But it is actually a blueprint that says that it is done, and it's never produced water out of it, to my knowledge. We've tried it several different ways, and there's nothing that feeds from one to the other.
Really? Okay. We can look into that and get back further information about that.
Yeah.
Essentially, the Walnut Hill situation is, it's kind of based on what the developer is able to get accomplished, because there's a long list of issues that are associated with that development that haven't been cleared with community development. And I think what Mr. Hoagland is saying is that if that subdivision comes online, then you have that interconnection.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I just had this question in the back of my mind that if St. Paul's and Owens were together, why didn't St. Paul's pick up the slack with Owens being offline? But if the connection won't work, then why?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll visit with our engineering reps with Draper Aiden and find a little bit more information. Can circle back on that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. With that, need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn to February 1st, 2022 at 5:30 PM here in the boardroom.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any objections? Motion carries. We are adjourned.